Proposal for this semester is entitled Improving an Online Collaborative Revision Tool Through Expert Feedback. The reason I am interested in even developing and testing this tool is because of my focus on writing and specifically the revision phase of the writing process. Writing is traditionally taught to students in a linear way, so there is a separate process or phase for revision. After reviewing the research, I've found that students make two types of changes during the revision phase: surface level changes and text-based changes. And this is something that I had also noticed when working with my students. These were kind of the two types of changes that they were making. And surface level changes are changes that students make in terms of editing usually. So maybe they need to capitalize a letter, or they need to add a period or a semicolon. And text-based changes are really additions, omissions, or any other types of changes to the actual writing of their piece, whether it's an essay or story or whatever. So I'm hoping that with my Google Doc Revision add-on that I will be able to distinguish these two types of changes. That's kind of the goal of it. So this research specifically is focusing on how to improve the Google Doc Revision add-on tool in order to assist users during the revision phase of the writing process. I have three research questions for this study. The first one is, how can the Google Doc Revision add-on be revised in order to improve user interaction? The second one is, are secondary teachers interested in using the Google Doc Revision add-on with their students? And the last one is, what are the perceived effects of distinguishing surface level changes and text-based changes during the revision stage of the writing process? So the purpose of this mixed method study is to improve the revision add-on for Google Docs in order to make it user-friendly and effective for secondary students and teachers. The significance is it may provide suggestions on which buttons to include in the add-on. It may suggest how to improve the user-friendliness of the add-on for students and teachers. And it also may inform an understanding of how visual and written messages are viewed by users of the add-on during the revision stage of the writing process. Initially, I was hoping to have about 30 secondary teachers provide feedback for a sample persuasive essay using the working prototype of the Google Doc Revision add-on. However, as many of you know, the working prototype is not quite ready yet. So for this assignment for this semester, I ended up having to gather some feedback using the paper prototype. And I am okay with that for a couple of reasons. It is going to allow me to revise my survey a little bit more, which I'll discuss in a little while. So I think all in all, this has been a helpful step instead of a setback. So instead of the 30 secondary teachers I was hoping to have test my working prototype, I only have 5 secondary teachers from a few places in the United States that were able to provide feedback for my paper prototype. So participants used the revision tool, so my add-on, and the comments feature to leave feedback for the sample essay using the paper prototype. Then they completed a Qualtrics survey to provide feedback about using the paper prototype of the Google Docs Revision add-on. So my artifact for this semester was not actually the add-on. That's kind of what I worked on last semester. My artifact for this semester was a Qualtrics survey composed of 13 questions. And again, like I previously said, the survey was completed after the participants tested the paper prototype of the add-on with a sample essay. I'm just going to kind of quickly run through the survey questions because you guys have already seen them. I didn't make any changes to them from the last desk crit because I had already submitted this to the IRB and it was approved. So I'm going to talk about in a little while what changes I will make before I actually, test or use my survey with the working prototype. So I want to quickly discuss some of the results that I got from this survey that was completed by my teachers that tested this. So this table contains the mean scores for the survey items that assess participant perceptions of their technology use, their experience using Google Docs, the experience using the add-on, and their perception on their students' ability to actually use the add-on. So the overall, the mean scores suggest here that all participants use technology in their classrooms, and their students use it almost as frequently. So basically, I wanted these questions in there to know about the teachers' willingness to use technology. I wanted to know if they were, heavy technology users or not, and it turned out that all of them were. So all of them also have used Google Docs themselves personally, while only a little bit over half of them have actually used them with students. All of them suggest that they would like to use, or they would consider using Google Docs with their students in the future. They all felt that the add-on was easy to use, and they all knew where to find buttons when they were leaving feedback using the paper prototype of the revision add-on. And they all also feel like their students would be able to effectively use it. So overall, pretty good scores, high agreement on a lot of things. So when looking at their open-ended response, there were two major themes that came out of it. The first one was satisfaction. So all participants were satisfied with the add-on, and there were a couple of contributing factors to that satisfaction, such as the ease of use. They really liked the tallies of buttons used and the ability to export comments. The other major theme that came out was features. So the majority of the participants believed the sidebar tracking buttons used by the students would be really helpful for both the students and teachers. And so those are essentially the tallies that are on the side. A couple of them mentioned that this would be helpful when trying to develop lessons for students, or just for the students to know what they struggle with in terms of editing. Over half of the participants noted the need for exporting comments with students in them and in their personal lives. A couple of people mentioned how this would really be helpful, not necessarily for their teaching, but in their personal lives, being able to export comments into a table. And most of the participants suggested the editing marks actually appear on the page instead of the colors, and I knew this would come up, and it's something that I obviously initially wanted. One participant also noted, one of those four, also noted that she would make those editing marks red so they stand out. So moving forward with this, there are things that I would like to do before the next iteration, which will hopefully be with the working prototype soon. So first thing I need to do is make some survey adjustments. So like I was talking about earlier, I'm really glad that I got to do this with the paper prototype before doing it with the working prototype, because I need to work on my survey a little bit. So the first thing I need to do is ask specific questions about the features, because they were so frequently mentioned in the open-ended response. So I need to ask specific questions about tallies, about exporting comments, about the appearance of the colors. I need to ask a few more detailed questions about usability, and I also need to ask more focused questions on the visual distinction of messages. And what I mean by that is the distinction between the editing and the comments. I didn't have as many responses about that as I thought I would, so I need to ask more focused questions about that. So once I develop my questions, I intend to submit an IRB amendment for approval before actually testing the working prototype. And I really think that this is all going to eventually, it's going to make my artifact for this semester much better, which is the survey, and then it's also going to allow me to actually improve the working prototype once it's ready. So I really appreciate all the feedback that you guys have been giving me this semester and actually all year, and I'm looking forward to continuing to work on this. Thanks so much.